What's up, guys? Drew, addict, alcoholic, substance use disorder. What do you got? Because I'd love to try it and continue to try it and get stuck on it and start to abuse it. And it starts to affect my mental health and it starts to affect my relationships and my life starts to go down the tube. And I promise everyone, hey, look, I'm going to make some changes. I'm going to quit. But I have this mind that seems to just convince me that, hey, you know what? This time I'm going to do things a little bit different. And I always ran into trouble. I eventually had to get sober. I got sober April 10th, 2020 in the middle of COVID. An overdose is what brought me into recovery finally. And I said, look, I lost the war to drugs. It kicked my ass. It kicked my ass over and over and over. And finally, I had to do something about it. But I just want to come on here and make a video. I want to talk a little bit today about California sober. We hear so much about it. What is it? What does it entail? Is this a legit path of recovery? First of all, it's basically getting off of hard drugs, maybe even alcohol, getting off the pills, whatever your thing is, and it's utilizing marijuana. And it kind of seems to be the philosophy of, hey, look, let's get off the stuff that is really hurting us, really causing problems, blatantly just ruining our life, and let's have at least have something to turn to mellow out, to relax, to be able to just chill. And I don't know. There's a lot of people doing it nowadays. It's very popular. And I've talked to a lot of people because, and this is something that I've learned throughout my recovery journey, is not everyone's journey is going to look exactly the same. See, because if I were just going to go off of my own experience, if someone asked, hey, is California sober? Is that sober? Is that a legit path of recovery? Probably when I first started, I'd be like, no, man, that's not sober. You got to get off of everything, because that's kind of what... That's kind of how I was brought up in early recovery. That's kind of what rehabs were telling me. That's kind of what doctors were telling me. Friends in recovery were telling me. And over time, I've kind of realized that I've talked to a lot of people to where, and on the podcast and in various aspects, to where, oh, you know what? People are actually utilizing this. Like, this is actually a thing. People are getting off of the drugs that are actually killing them, and they're doing it through the use of marijuana. So I would have to say, is it a legit path of recovery? It seems to be. But I'm also the type that's like, hey, look, not everyone's recovery looks exactly the same. I'll tell you a little bit about my experience and why I wasn't able to utilize being California sober, because I promise you, I tried many, many times. But I'll tell you what happens for me. I go to rehab because the heat is on. Maybe a probation officer, family, girlfriend, work, something is just saying, hey, legal issues. Someone's saying, hey, you're having issues with drugs. You need to get sober. And I go into rehab and, you know I have a problem. I've known I had a problem since I was 17, 18 when I first started doing this stuff. It's been blatantly obvious to me, and I wouldn't admit it for a long time, but towards the end, I knew. The last few rehabs I went to, I knew. And I'd go to rehab and I would get out and I'd say, okay, look, the fentanyl, the meth, that stuff is ruining my life. It's giving me felonies. It's ruining my legal record. It's making me spend all my money. It's causing terrible issues with relationships, strains in the family. It's not allowing me to really progress in life. I seem to be all over the place. I seem to get a job for a little bit, and then I quit, and then I get another one. And I just seem to always have to restart my life. And it always ends in either me getting in trouble again or me having to go back to rehab or detox. And so I'd get out of rehab, and I'd say, look, I can't use that stuff. I can't use the hard stuff. But I'm the kind of guy who always wants something. Like, I want like sobriety is hard. Staying sober all the time is hard. That's the hard part for me. Like, most days it's like, okay, look, I feel clear-headed. I feel kind of balanced out. I feel kind of leveled. I feel like I have a little bit of motivation, a little bit of energy. I kind of want to get back in the fold here. I kind of want to get a job. I kind of want to have a routine. I kind of want to start doing better in life. but I'm the kind of guy who always wants something. Like I like to look forward to at least being able to have a beer after work. Like this was the kind of alcoholic, addict fantasy that I always had in my head is maybe there's a way that I can get responsible enough or whatever where I could find a way to responsibly use something. Point being, I always wanted something. And so I would turn to marijuana. I would turn towards the California sober route because the way I looked at it is, look, the weed stuff, it's not putting me in jail. It's not putting me through withdrawals. I'm not spending all my money on it. It's not making me homeless. And there was times where I felt like, it actually improved my mental health a little bit, helped me deal with a little bit of anxiety. Sometimes it made it worse, but sometimes it made it better. And it kind of helped with some of the depression and stuff. So I would turn to the marijuana. And this is why California sober didn't work for me. I would end up abusing that, which is weird, right? Because I remember when I would go to rehab when I was younger and people would say, oh, look, I'm here for weed and stuff. And I'd be like, weed? You're in rehab for weed? What are you talking about, man? Like, that's just the stepping stone. That's the stuff we use before we start getting addicted to stuff. And, but I would overdo it. I would find a way to take a substance that some people can utilize in order to stay off of harder drugs and better their life. And I would find a way to abuse that. And I'd start smoking on the weekends. And pretty soon I'm smoking after work. And it becomes a daily thing. And I'm going to the weed clinics in California. And everyone knows if you're from California, they tax you, man. That's why they started them, right? They wanted to get involved in the whole marijuana trade and make some money. So the prices were pretty high. And I found myself kind of spending a lot of money on marijuana. And pretty soon, it's not that I'm just smoking after work. I'm basically starting to smoke before work. And it's not very long before I am smoking during work. And I'm blowing money at the dispensaries. And pretty soon, I'm getting edibles. And I'm eating edibles at work. The brownies, the little hash Twinkies and everything. And I'm buying concentrates. And it's not very long before it becomes my priority, just like the hard drugs did. Now it's not quite as bad. Like for me, it didn't have the crazy hold on me like a lot of the other drugs did. I wasn't running around trying to steal shit or do a bunch of illegal stuff to get the weed. So it was better in that respect. But essentially what happened is it just became such a priority in my life that I felt like I needed it to go to sleep. I felt like I needed it to wake up. I needed it for work. I needed it before I ate anything. I didn't get at least much enjoyment out of life. Like if we're going to the movies, like, oh, I need to smoke and I need to walk out there and smoke again. And it just became something that I was doing all the time. And that's when I came to the conclusion that California sober for me personally was not going to work. But I also acknowledge that just because it doesn't work for me doesn't mean it doesn't work for other people, because I've got a lot of comments from you guys. I've talked to people on the podcast that it's working for them. They use it to deal with pain. I had a comment not too long ago where a guy was he was utilizing marijuana because he had an opiate addiction and he has serious back pain, legit back pain, and he can't take the pain medication. So he smoked some weed and he basically said, look, my life's way better. So I just want to say, if anyone comes across this that is California sober and it's working for you, that's amazing, man. That's amazing. I personally, through my journey, I couldn't make it work. I just couldn't. But part of accepting, and I think this is big for addiction, at least it was for me, part of accepting that I have a problem with something, that I overdo something, that I don't have control over something, that every time I try and make it work in my life and fit just right, it doesn't really happen. Part of accepting that for me was also accepting the other half of the coin, that, you know what, there's people out there that actually can do it successfully. I had to accept it. There's people out there that drink normally. There's some people that use every once in a while, and they're fine. There's people that utilize marijuana to stay sober off harder drugs, and it works for them. And if you're one of those people, man, congrats. Keep doing what works for you. I just wanted to come on here, talk a little bit about my experience. I wasn't able to make it happen. I have come to find out that pretty much any substance, even ones that other people can do successfully, I just couldn't do. I just couldn't do it. But I do subscribe to the idea that let's, at the very least, let's get off the stuff that is absolutely killing us. We have to get off the fentanyl. We have to. We have got to get off that stuff. The meth, if it's really became a serious problem, and especially if you're starting to experience psychosis and you're staying up for long periods of time and you're losing it mentally and you're getting paranoid and you think all this stuff's going on, people are talking behind your back, cops are after you, whatever it is, we got to get off that stuff. And if you can utilize marijuana and your life really improves after, good for you, man. So I think overall, is it a path? It must be, because I've talked to a lot of people that have utilized it. It wasn't a path that worked for me, but that's okay. I think that our recovery doesn't always look the same. There's many of us that where it may look very similar, but that's why I encourage people as well to figure out what works for you. If you're someone who has tried the California sober thing and maybe it's not working, maybe it's just not going to work for you. But I think there's different levels to things, and maybe your life, your situations in your life, your addiction, your recovery, whatever it is, maybe it's just pushing you towards getting off the marijuana as well. I don't know, but I do think it's a path of recovery, man, and I support all paths of recovery, and hope everyone's doing well out there. Thanks for listening, guys.